This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is August 22nd, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, or as of late, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what's your middle name? I don't know that I know your middle name.
You're doing this on air, on blast, in front of the whole world. Just kidding. It's just Michael. That's all.
Oh, that's pretty average.
But now you have to share yours.
Kevin Michael Tucker. I am Jonathan Brandon Osborne. So fun fact, my mother has 3 sons. Joseph, the oldest, Jonathan, myself, the middle, and then my younger brother, Justin. My brother is Joseph Anthony. I'm Jonathan Brandon, and my younger brother is Justin Connor. So J-A, J-B, J-C. So my mom went with all the J's, so my wife and I went with all A's for our children, but their middle names are not, alphabetical order or anything like that. But anyways, Kevin, how are you doing?
Yep. Can't complain. Things are good. We had just a terrific conversation with Mr. David Steele. Obviously can't wait to share that with you guys. But yeah, that was great. Highlight of my day, I'll say. He's a special guy and glad we got to talk with him.
I will never get used to being able to do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like you and I talk about it privately all the time, but I hope everybody that listens and follows the show realizes like how much this kind of stuff still means to us and how much of a thrill it is every single time that we get to have a conversation or experience with like a living legend in David Steele. So yeah, really appreciate that.
Yeah, Jonathan knows this. I talk about this all the time. Like in the world of the Orlando Magic, like David Steele is above most players that have ever worn that jersey to me. Like David Steele is an absolute icon, quite literally this soundtrack of my youth, my childhood, my adulthood now. I mean, it's
your life.
Quite literally my entire life since I was 7 years old. And so to be able to have conversations with him it's just priceless to me. Genuinely, really is really, really special. And so, but yeah, really, really cool to get to do that and can't wait to share that with you.
So you, listener or viewer, will want to stay tuned as we'll get to that interview with David Steele in just a little bit, where we talk about a lot of things. We talk about Pat Williams, obviously. We talk about David Steele meeting his idol, Jerry West, just this past season, as a matter of fact. Talk about last season for the Orlando Magic. We talk about the future of the Orlando Magic, and we even talk about the future of David Steele. So you'll want to stay tuned for that conversation in just a little bit. But before we get to that, couple of fun things that we wanted to talk about. Now, Kevin and myself, we are not the biggest 2K guys, but we know that a lot of you out there are. Now, Kevin, there was once upon a time where I was a 2K guy, where I would stand in line at GameStop at 11 o'clock midnight to get my hands on the newest copy or the newest edition of that to go home and play. But almost in protest, I have like boycotted 2K for the most part. The only time that I will play 2K is when on my PlayStation Plus subscription, it's like the game of the month where I can get it for free, right? And I've done that with a lot of video game franchises at this point because the whole microtransaction BS that has taken over video games is just the most disgusting, vile thing in the world to me. So a big reason of why I don't play those games is that, and I just don't think they're as good as they used to be. Were you ever a big 2K guy or never?
I was not a 2K guy, but big NBA Live guy.
Yeah.
Like huge. Like that was my second, I think, video game ever was NBA Live 2000 on PC, which PCs back in those days were, as big as this shelf behind me. It was huge. But then, yeah, I played once the PlayStation came out, like PS1 and then Xbox original. It was, all those NBA Lives from 2000 up until, I don't know, 07 maybe. Then they stopped making them for a couple years, and they came out with they called it NBA Live 10, which Dwight Howard was on the cover of. And so I got that. And then after that, I really haven't played an NBA game religiously. But like you, when it is free on Xbox Game Pass at the end of the season, I will pick it up and simulate a dynasty. But I just can't do the gameplay. To me, like the gameplay of all the sports games out there, 2K's gameplay is actually the worst to me. Like I think FIFA is the best. I think the football, especially college football, now that it's out, I think college football is great.
The recent patches have really impacted the amount of fun. I don't enjoy throwing 5 interceptions and a half.
Yeah, you got to get better at the game, brother.
Just get good.
Get good, kid. Just kidding. No, that's fair. But I still put 2K at the bottom of the list. Like as far as just gameplay, I just think it's just clunky. I don't think it's fun. You could also just say I need to get good. I know that's true. But anyway, all I have to say, big NBA Live guy, never 2K.
Have you seen the gameplay footage, like the early footage coming out of 2K25? Because it actually, I'm interested. I'm not going to buy it because a lot of the other things, but I'm going to be paying close attention to what other people say, because like just the movement and the dribbling seems so much more realistic than I think anything we've ever seen. So I'm interested to see that. So you're not a big 2K guy. I was a big NBA Live guy. Like the first NBA Live I played, I want to say it was like 03 or 04, but the one that I spent the most time with was NBA Live 2005 with Carmelo Anthony on the cover.
Oh, yeah. Goated soundtrack, by the way.
I still remember coming home from school one night and NBA Live 05 sitting on my dresser because my dad had picked it up for me.
Aww.
The last like few iterations of NBA Live, because now it's basically like been canceled indefinitely. I don't remember if it was NBA Live or NBA Live 19, but the shooting mechanics, especially in one of those games, felt so much better than 2K in recent years. I don't know how many people remember this one. One of my favorite NBA games growing up was NBA 06 with Amari Stoudemire on the cover, where you had The Life Volume 1, which was like this story, like narrative driven, like career mode where you were like, I'm pretty sure you had to be a point guard, but that like I replayed that a few years ago actually. And it's just to this day, I feel like it holds up really well, like the gameplay from that game. But all right. So do you have something else, or should we like actually get to why we brought all this up?
The only thing I was going to say, I think that was like a PlayStation exclusive game, maybe?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, that's what I thought. I remember that, but being an Xbox guy, I didn't play that, but I do recall that game. Anyway.
I wanted that game so badly, and then I get a call. This is like the early days of cell phones. I get a call from my dad, and he knew I was looking for this game. Like we couldn't find it anywhere. I had read about it in the good old Tips and Tricks magazine. Talk about a throwback sentence. I had read about it and I'd been looking for it for months. And I get a call from my dad one night. He's like, I've got it. I found it. It's at the Hollywood Video is where we used to go for video games. There's another throwback for you.
Yeah.
So I was all excited. I get home. My dad brings it in and it's NBA Live 06 with freaking Dwayne Wade on the cover.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I popped it in. I'm like, where's the life? Like that's, right. I wanted to play the game for that mode. And I was like, yeah, this isn't it. Because the game hadn't even come out yet. But yeah, amazing. Those were good times. The reason that we brought up 2K is because in recent weeks, there have been some NBA 2K ratings that have been revealed for Orlando Magic players. So we thought it would be fun to go through that. Now, every year when we go through these ratings, I always go to 2kratings.com. It seems to be pretty much like 99% of the way there. They've never really steered us wrong. So one that, I guess there's a couple that haven't like officially been announced yet. But I think we should start just right at the top with Paolo Banchero being given an 88 overall. He's ranked 30th in the league behind Zion Williamson, Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox, Trae Young, Paul George, Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama is an 89. Tyrese Maxey is an 89. Damian Lillard is an 89. Domantas Sabonis is a 90. Tyrese Halliburton is a 91. Kawhi Leonard's a 92. Jimmy Butler's a 93. Donovan Mitchell's a 93. Jaylen Brown's a 93. John Morant's a 93. Kyrie Irving is a 94. What are your thoughts, Paolo Banchero being an 88 and being behind a lot of those players that I just mentioned? I feel like Paolo is better than most of those guys that I just mentioned.
That's what I was going to say. Like being told he's 30th in the league, I was like, okay, maybe, but as you list off those names, like you cannot tell me that Jimmy Butler is 5 rating points better than Paolo Banchero. Like, no shot. Like, that is crazy. You can't tell me that Domantas Sabonis is 2 better. Now, maybe it's the way, the statistics work because Sabonis is a great rebounder and great passer that they give him the higher ratings in those areas and that influences the overall rating. I don't know. But wow. Yeah, that's interesting. No, I think he definitely deserves to be better than probably 5 of those guys that you mentioned at least. So maybe he should be 25th. Give him, a 89. I don't know if you want to put him in the 90 realm. I also don't like how a lot of video games, 2K included, just kind of dish out some of these really, really high ratings. But I don't think there's any 99s. I think I read this year there's no, 99s to start the year off, which I think is good. That
Jokic is in 98,
yeah.
Embiid in 97, Doncic in 97, Giannis a 97, Shea a 97,
yeah,
Durant 96, LeBron 96, Tatum 96, Anthony Edwards, Curry, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker 95.
Interesting. Yeah. All I had to say, yeah, I think that's a little bit unfair, but hey, we're used to it. We're used to Paolo getting gypped, getting slept on, disrespected, take your pick. But yeah, that's a little bit disappointing.
Unfortunately, like the attention bias gets mixed in with these 2K ratings. The fact that, probably 90% of the, employees making this game haven't watched more than 5 Paolo Banchero games in the last season. I think that probably has a lot to do with it as well. But, he'll be creeping up the ratings this year because we'll be on national TV a bit more. And I'm sure Paolo Banchero will be, playing pretty well in those games. Next, Franz Wagner, who is rated with an 86, and he is 43rd in the league. He's right there with Jalen Williams, Cade Cunningham, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jamal Murray's up there, Kristaps Porzingis, Chet Holmgren, DeMar DeRozan. Like, Franz's rating seems just about right when you look at the guys that he's around. Like, he's just above Derek White. He's above DeJounte Murray, Evan Mobley. He's above Scotty Barnes. Take that, Toronto. Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Alperen Şengün, Rudy Gobert. Like, the Franz Wagner rating feels appropriate. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
I don't love that he's behind, some of those other guys from his class, but
right. Yeah, I'm especially happy with the company he's around. Like you said, that feels pretty fair to me. Again, kind of confusing as to why he's fair and Paolo isn't, but whatever. I'll take it. 86, 43rd overall. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Next up, Jalen Suggs is an 82. He's ranked 72nd in the league. He's behind Alex Caruso, Josh Hart, DeAndre Ayton, Desmond Bane, Michael Porter Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Tyler Hero. I mean, I don't know about that. He's just above Herbert Jones, Jeremy Grant. He's above Darius Garland, Ivica Zubac, Jonas Valanciunas, Kobe White, Cam Thomas, Emmanuel Quickley. I'm okay with where Jalen is.
I am, for the most part, looking at his defensive stats. On his card this year, 93 perimeter defense. It's pretty
Feels
good.
Right.
Could even be a little bit better if you ask me. Give him a 94, 95.
99.
80 steal. That feels a little low to me. Lateral quickness, 84. Help defense IQ, 84. Pass perception, 82. Pass perception, 82. The guy who lives in the passing lanes.
Yeah, that's awful.
Defensive consistency, 85. Blocks, 62. Overall defending, a 78. Because his interior defense is 55. I don't think that total equation, it leaves a little bit to be desired.
Interior defense being a 55. Right. I mean, come on now.
Right. I know he's a guard, but yeah, it stinks that's what ends up happening to his overall defensive rating because of that. But yeah, I think some of those defensive stats could go up. But look at his offensive numbers though; they're pretty spicy. Shot IQ 98. Offensive consistency,
what is
95.
Shot IQ?
Yeah, don't ask me. I don't play the game. 3-point, 83. Close shot, 91. His vertical, 90. Stamina, 88. Hustle,
Strength
85.
59. What are we doing, 2K?
That was kind of crazy.
He's one of the strongest guards in the league.
And also, I would add Hustle 85 is disrespectful.
No, it's
got to be in the 90s.
Hustle's a 99.
Yeah, got to be in the 90s. So anyway, intangibles 98. That's kind of cool. Potential at 84. To give him his total potential being 84 seems a little rude, but
pass
all in all,
accuracy 78. Ugh, casuals over there at 2K. This is why I hate. I understand why people are interested in it, but I just get angry each year. And they have to lower some of these guys ratings. So if we went through and ranked Jalen, he'd be an 88. It would be ridiculous, right?
Right.
Maybe he's not an 88 at this point in time, but yeah, always a little bit annoying when you go through and you read some of these ratings here. Let's go through. Now, those are the only Magic players that are in the top 100, Paolo, Franz, and Jalen Suggs. But let's go through some of these other ratings and just maybe we won't go in depth like we did.
Yeah.
But Wendell at an 80, fair or not fair?
Yeah, probably fair.
I feel like that's fair. Cole Anthony a 79.
Yeah, probably fair.
Right? Fine.
Yeah.
To me, J.I. should be an 80. Him being a 79 just doesn't feel right.
Well, not only is it an 80, if you click on his defensive stats, Jonathan.
Oh, boy.
More disrespect. He only has one defensive stat that's in the 80s or higher.
Okay, we're moving on here. This is so stupid.
Listen to this. No, I got the people have to hear this, Jonathan. They have to hear the injustice. Yes, his block is 92. That's fine. But his interior defense is 75. His perimeter defense is 78. 70 steal, 77 lateral quickness, 75 help defense IQ.
Where's
75.
Ronnie?
75
Where's Ronnie?
Pass perception, 75 defensive consistency. That is crazy to me. That is wild.
Overall durability being a 67. They made sure to sneak that in there, didn't they? Okay. We're done here. We're moving on to some of these other players. Mo Wagner, a 78. I feel like that's fair. Contavious Caldwell-Pope being a 78. That feels just a little bit low.
Yeah.
His perimeter defense is an 84. Steals a 59. 3-point shooting 87. Okay, I guess that's okay, but KCP does feel a little bit low there. Gary Harris is 76. I mean, okay. Anthony Black is 75. Goga Batadze is 75. Caleb Houston is 72. Corey Joseph is 72.
Yeah.
Jed Howard is 71. Kevon Harris no longer on the roster, but he's a 69. Nice. Trevelyan Queen is 67.
Yep.
And then they have a rookie rating here for Tristan DeSilva at a 70. That feels low. Should probably be Jed Howard, the 71. I feel like we'll see that increase pretty quickly. And the Tristan DeSilva rating, I think we're going to see increase pretty quickly.
I'll be honest. I thought the KCP 78 rating was just disrespect because he's in Orlando. But last year he was 78 for Denver as well. So
yeah,
I guess it's not all disrespect, but we'll see if he can play his way, to a little bit higher rating later in the year.
All right. Well, the microtransactions still suck. 2K, you're still money hungry sons of guns, and
that's right.
I hope your game flops, and maybe you'll reevaluate the way that you do business and the way that you treat your fans.
Won't be getting my money.
Those of us who were loyal from 2K 8, 9, even back to 2K5, whatever year Ben Wallace was on the cover,
it had
for
the
years and years and years.
First person experience too of that one.
ESPN NFL 2K5,
right.
That game was fire. A lot of people have been talking about that game this week on Twitter, but just the last decade, the way that they've gone into the microtransactions has really been pretty wild. Anyways, another thing that we want to talk about here before we get to the interview with David Steele is that the Fanatics Fan Fest in New York continued this week, and Paolo Banchero was on a panel with one gentleman. You'll have to remind me his name because I don't remember who he is. But then it was Dr. J and Jay Williams. And the highlight of this panel for me was the final question that Jay Williams asks Paolo Banchero. He says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And he says, NBA champion, MVP, face of the league, face of basketball, and one of the faces of the next generation of basketball, Kevin. That got me so fired up hearing him say that he sees himself as an NBA champion within the next 5 years, fulfilling the prophecy of Alex Martins.
That's right.
Of the Magic winning a title before 2030. that really just got me fired up.
Yeah, it's one of those clips, like one of those quotes that if and when it happens, we'll come back and play this quote and say, hey, Paolo tried to warn you. He told you so. He told you this was happening. You should have listened. And here we are. No, that was like really cool. And I know that every NBA player thinks that, right? You know, every NBA player will say that. You know, if you ask every rookie from this past season, what do you want to be in 5 years? An NBA champ. I'd love to be MVP. I'd love to be all those things. But it's different when you have the game to back it up. Like we've talked about it ad nauseum for the last 2 years, especially this Paolo guy's the real deal. And so to see what he did this season, to see him in the offseason talking like this, it is definitely very exciting.
Yeah, he also repeated the point that he made the other day on First Take to say like the Magic could easily be a top 3 or top 4 team in the East this year, which we're looking to see that. And another one of my, I'm right now I'm borderline considering printing this picture out and hanging it on my wall. It's a picture on Tracy McGrady's Instagram story of Tracy McGrady and Paolo Banchero.
Yep.
Two of my very favorite basketball players of all time at this point together. Just like, let's just put Tracy McGrady in the time machine, bring him back, put him in the lineup, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, we love you and everything. Right. We're going to slide you back to the bench.
78 overall.
Let's have a starting lineup of Jalen Suggs, Tracy McGrady, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., and just see what happens there.
It's a Larry O'Brien right there is what it is.
It's unfortunate that stuff like that can't happen. But yeah, if you haven't watched any of that stuff from the Fanatics Fan Fest with Paolo Banchero, it's all on YouTube. You can find it on like Fanatics YouTube channel and ESPN First Takes, all that kind of stuff. Did you take anything else from the few clips that we saw of Paolo?
Not really. Again, just love the confidence, love that he's getting these opportunities. I think that's another thing. We do talk about him being disrespected. I still think he is. But the fact that he is given these opportunities shows that he is getting more respect. And I think that's only going to continue to go up as, this season goes on and the seasons to come.
You know what else is going to continue as the season goes on?
Let's hear it.
Our partnership with Jam Hot Chicken. So shout out to Jam Hot Chicken, proudly serving the city beautiful. Jam Hot Chicken is bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA-inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. You can follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media platforms, and you can check out jamhotchickenfl.com to access their menu, order online, find their music playlist, and all things Jam Hot. Jam Hot Chicken was ranked number 4 in Yelp's top Florida restaurants of 2023, and if you are in Orlando, specifically the Winter Park area, they are now available on Uber Eats. So if you don't feel like getting in the car, but you have that hankering for Jam Hot Chicken, you can find them and order that and get that delivered straight to your door on Uber Eats. Shout out to our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken.
Jonathan, this is the part of the show where we shout out some patrons. But I think there's some patrons you really got to shout out in this one.
Yes, Kevin, you are correct. So first of all, I have to offer a few of these folks an apology because they were new patrons on our last episode, and I got so caught up with talking about how we were going to do the list moving forward that I forgot to give them a special shout out. So Austin Vogt and Escoso Fresco, from the bottom of my heart, please accept my sincerest apologies. Austin Vogt joined the elite tier at the annual level. Just said, I'm just going to pay for the entire year, which you do get a significant discount on your subscription to our Patreon by just paying for the year up front. And Escoso Fresco joined the year at the Hall of Fame tier level. Really, really appreciate you both. And again, apologize for forgetting to shout you out on the last episode. Welcome to the Patreon community. Hope that we see you in our Discord channel. And a big shout out to Nikki Nunu, who joined this week at our Hall of Fame tier level. Really appreciate you joining.
Yeah, this episode of the Six Man Show is brought to you by Gabe Gaines, Junior Barus, Ray Pastrana, Pierre A., and Richard Tuttle, 5 of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. Our Patreon is an awesome opportunity for you to financially support the show. Like Jonathan has shared before, we'd love to make this our full-time gig someday. It's not, but the more patrons that we have, the more possible that becomes. And so if you want to support us in any way, there's several tiers that you can choose from. You can find us at patreon.com/The Six Man Show. Like I said, lots of different tiers for you to choose from. Just check us out and see what you think.
Yeah, guys, help me quit my job. Would really appreciate that. We are going to get right into our conversation with Orlando Magic legend David Steele. And now, Orlando Magic fans, we are joined by a very special guest. I don't think we've had this gentleman on the podcast since last September, so almost a year now. But we are now joined by Orlando Magic legend and Orlando Magic Hall of Famer, play-by-play broadcaster, Mr. David Steele, who's getting ready for his 36th season calling Orlando Magic games. David, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've had a great summer. Busy with travel and just being with family, traveling up to Tennessee and Georgia, seeing our family up there, and a little time in North Carolina. And my wife and I just got back from a big celebration, our 50th wedding anniversary. We went to Scotland for 9 days, so that was quite an experience. So been a good summer. Thanks.
Well, yeah, first of all, happy anniversary. That is incredible, 50 years.
Yeah, it's been a good run. We've raised 3 children and we have 8 grandchildren now. So the family time is special.
That's awesome. Yeah. And apparently you just got back like last night or today, I guess, whatever it is, from Scotland. So definitely thanks for
whatever day it is. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Thanks for adjusting your brain calendar to do that with us today. So David, an amazing season last season, obviously really special one. Back to the playoffs for the first time in several years. Just in a quick summary, like what was the season like for you? Obviously a pretty dramatic season, lots of highs, a couple of lows, but overall pretty awesome season, I would say. How would you summarize the 23-24 season?
Oh man, it was great. It was so good to be back as a relevant team, a team that, you know, has a chance to do something, to be a playoff team, to maybe advance to a second round. And, you know, we could tell pretty early on that we had a chance to be very, very good. Paolo taking a big step, Franz obviously as well, and Jalen Suggs might have taken the biggest step of all of that group. It just came together really nicely. In Jamal's third year, I think he deserves a lot of credit too, because what I saw was that for 2 years he built relationships with the players, and then it was a little different. His approach right from the very beginning, the first day of training camp in his third year, this past season, he got real serious because he knew this was a talented enough team to do some damage, and so he turned the switch a little bit on them. But he had relationships with the players that he had developed for those 2 seasons. So, you know, when you get rough on guys a little bit, or you ask more from them, you know, they're going to be more likely to respond, which they did. They love their coach. They love this coaching staff, and it's really a tight knit group. I think you can see that. You watch the team, you watch them interact on the bench, and it's real. It's not phony. It's really a good chemistry.
David, so much went into this past season, with it being the 35th anniversary season, with the unveiling of the classic jerseys and the classic floor. You have Paolo Banchero, second year. He makes the all-star team. You talked about all of these young players taking big steps. Jamal Mosley, you know, changing his approach a little bit and continuing to grow with this team. And people that are close to the team, I think, had a healthy level of expectations with this team and thought they could do pretty well this last season. But then by the national media standards, this team really overachieved and, you know, making that playoff run. When you think about like just last season in its entirety and it being the 35th anniversary season, where does that rank amongst like your favorite Magic seasons of all time?
It's in the top 2 or 3 for sure, because you know, we're back, like I said. To me, there have been several inflection points in franchise history. First of all, obviously drafting Shaq, and then Penny the next year. Those were serious, big-time inflection points where the team was vaulted to the top of the NBA, or at least the Eastern Conference. And then again in 2004, drafting Dwight Howard, and then several years later, we're in the NBA Finals. And then you got the Paolo Banchero drafting. And you follow that up with, or you have Suggs and Franz, and then you get Paolo at number 1. So I think, you know, this is we're on the cusp of another great Magic run, and that's what's so exciting for me, to see this franchise come back around after, you know, 10 or 11, 12 years of just trying to find the right combinations, trying to get the right players, and it's finally come together again. So I think it's going to be one of the golden eras of Magic basketball. We're just at the beginning of it.
I'm curious, David. Obviously, you've been around for every season of Magic basketball, and so I'm sure this season was especially special for you when it comes to the 35th anniversary and seeing a lot of the former players come back and all those kinds of things. Do you have maybe a favorite moment from the season? Maybe a couple favorite moments, whether it's on the court, something cool that happened, maybe off the court, like I said, with some old players coming back. Is there a moment or two that sticks out to you?
Well, Shaq's retirement celebration was really, really special. I mean, to see him come back and embrace the franchise and the city and see all those former players come back, that was really great. That was a great night. That's one I'll never forget. And then the other would be a non-Magic player. I did something that I never do in Los Angeles early in the year. I did some road games last year, and one of them was with the LA Lakers. Jerry West was in the media room, and he's one of my, boyhood idols as a basketball player. And, I've been in the NBA, like you said, 35 years. I've seen him. I've been in rooms with him, but I'd never met him. And I thought, I'm just going to walk up to him and introduce myself, which, again, is something I don't do. But I did, and he couldn't have been nicer. He spent, 15 minutes probably just standing in the hallway asking me about, what I did or, how the Magic and how long I'd been there and all of that. And shared some of his thoughts about our team and about the Lakers and LeBron James. And it was just a real special time. So to meet one of my boyhood legends, that was a big thrill this year as well.
Well, I don't know how we're going to follow that up because that is incredible. And, now I'm sure that means even more to you now, the fact that he's, passed in the recent months here. But
absolutely.
You mentioned a couple of minutes ago, David, that where we're at now, and especially when we talked last September, we talked about this era of Magic basketball and the organization being at an inflection point. And now it seems like the team has taken a positive upward trajectory from that inflection point last year, making the playoffs and adding a lot of talent this offseason. I wanted to ask you, with that playoff series last year, what was your opinion? How would you gauge the Magic's playoff performance? And what do you think could be the next level for this team?
It went, I think it went optimally for what you would expect for the Orlando Magic, having not been there, having all those guys that had never been in the playoffs. I said at the time, I'm probably not on the air, but talking with Jeff and others, it's so tough to win playoff basketball games when you've got players that haven't been there and they're young players, which is, one of the things that made those teams of Shaq and Penny so special in the early mid 90s was they were so young. But they did have one year of making the playoffs. And getting knocked out, upset by Indiana in the first round before coming back the next year and going all the way to the NBA Finals. So this was this group's, if you're, comparing teams in Magic history, this is this group's year one this past year of making the playoffs. And so what they can do in year two, I'm not sure if they can do, what Shaq and Penny and that group were able to do and go all the way to the NBA Finals. But to be honest, it wouldn't shock me if that happened, because I just don't think the East is, I think the East is strong. I think there are some very, very good teams, but I think the Magic has a team that's capable of, lightning can strike, lightning can hit, and you can get on a roll and you can feel great about yourself. It happened with the Phoenix Suns a few years ago. It happened with the Atlanta Hawks a few years back as well, and magical seasons. And I think we have the players and the coaches, and these guys really want to get there. So I think it could be a very big year.
We've talked about returning to the playoffs and such. That included a return to the playoffs at Kia Center. And I've been going to Kia Center since, opening night in 2010. Obviously, you've been there for all those home games. David, I've never heard that building like it was game 3, 4, and 6. I mean, I don't know if you have, but that was an incredible atmosphere. Can you speak a little bit to the atmosphere that we got to experience in the playoffs at home this year?
Yeah, it was like it had been with the Shaq years, the Shaq Penny, and the Dwight Howard, Rashard Lewis, Turkoglu Nelson years. The postseason is just at a totally different level, as you guys saw. I don't think there was a lot of belief. The two playoff runs that we had, first round runs, well, one of them was a COVID year. So the team was down at Disney playing, and we were in a closet in the Amway Center back then. Jeff and I were broadcasting games. So that was totally bizarre and different. But the other year we were in the playoffs. I don't think there was a great hope that team had a chance to go a long way, and that the future of that group were really on their way to big things. So this had a different feel about it. This is, the fans know they know that this team is about to do some special things, and nobody wants to miss out on seeing it. So the crowds were phenomenal. And you ain't seen nothing yet. We get back there in the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals, it's going to be the city will be upside down with excitement, and the arena will be at an entirely different level.
Every time we talk with David Steele, he just has this way about him that makes, I'm the most optimistic Magic fan there is, but David just has a way of getting me even more excited. So already can't wait until October to get this thing running here. But David, I wanted to ask you, we talked a little bit about, the passing and the loss of Jerry West, and the Magic organization and, the Orlando community suffered a big loss, several weeks back with the passing of Pat Williams. If you could just talk a little bit about, your experience working with Pat, over the years, and just sort of what he meant to you.
Well, he was instrumental. He was if you really bore down on it, he was the reason that I came to Orlando. I was in Gainesville. My wife and I and the family were in Gainesville at the University of Florida. I was the broadcaster for the Gators on radio for 7 seasons. It was a great job. I was young. I got that job at age 29 and, was there 7 years, could have been there for, that's a lifetime broadcaster's job. So when the Magic called, we had an open mind. I love basketball. It's my favorite sport to broadcast. And I played in high school, played college baseball, but basketball was really my favorite sport. And so the NBA was something I would have been interested in. So the Orlando Magic being a new team, I was interested in the job. But when Pat Williams, I met with Pat, and he totally had me fired up. What you just said about the interview here. If you're in a room, a one-on-one situation, or even if you're in just a big room and he's speaking, he is electric, and he is so persuasive. He is so positive. He has such great vision. He painted a picture of what Orlando was going to be down the road as a model NBA franchise, an iconic franchise in the NBA. And, you don't want to not be a part of that. This is where you need to go next in your career. And then my mother passed away in November of 1988. And this was when we were trying to decide, my wife and I were trying to decide, do we leave Gainesville? Do we go to Orlando? Do we take a shot at this fledgling NBA franchise? And a week after my mom passed, we got back home and I got a package in the mail from Pat Williams, who I'd met with and had great feelings about, and was, trying to decide whether to take the job or not. And it was a little, religious track about a little book about dealing with the loss of a loved one. And he had a really nice handwritten note with it. And I just, it just really touched me. And it made me realize that this was the type of organization, because organizations are about the people. Who are the leaders? What culture do they set? What's important to them? Character matters. And so I felt like this would be a good move for us. So we made the decision. We took the leap, and 36 years later, here we are.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's been great to hear. We've asked multiple people, obviously, about Pat, and just across the board, the response is the same. Just how beloved he was as a person, the different people that he impacted. He had this huge impact on the whole organization in Central Florida, but to also have the individual impacts on people, I think is really, really cool.
Oh, he was amazing. And it was one more quick story. Bill Land is the TV voice of the Spurs, and he just today announced that he's retiring. Bill has multiple myeloma. He shared that with me 2 seasons ago, that he had that diagnosis, and he had cut back on broadcasting games before this. And so we were talking about, as we get older, how to manage your career and your health and family and all of that stuff. And so, Bill helped me kind of decide what to do with the future of my career in broadcasting. And so then he comes down with multiple myeloma. And I called him when I saw that he had the diagnosis and said, would you like to speak to Pat Williams? So I set it up, and asked Pat if he would call. And Pat says, oh, of course I will. And Bill told me that they spent an hour on the phone. Pat spent an hour with him on the phone, encouraging him, telling him you can live a normal life. It's not the end of the world for you. And, here I am 12 years later, still doing well. And so that's the kind of guy Pat was. I mean, for him to do that, he didn't know Bill. He knew who he was, but just to pick up the phone and make that outreach, that shows you how special Pat was.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to speak with Pat a couple of times, in my interactions with him and the conversations that we've had with other people. The way that everybody talks about Pat reflects exactly what you're describing, David. So I really appreciate you talking about Pat for a few minutes there. Wanted to quickly shift back to Magic basketball and just ask you about the summer they've had, drafting Tristan da Silva, adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, adding another veteran presence in Corey Joseph. Just what are your thoughts on the moves that the Magic made this offseason?
Just brilliant, perfect. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, just the right guy. It feels a little bit like, again, going back and comparing, they're not perfect comparisons, but the young Magic team in the mid-'90s needed a power forward. They needed a guy alongside Shaq to really take a big step forward. And that guy was Horace Grant, and never an all-star, longtime NBA player like Pope is, for the Magic today. But he was just the right piece to that puzzle. So, I'm hoping that is going to be a repeat situation with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, that he's just that guy that clearly it's a huge need for the ball club, that 3-and-D two guard. And I think he's a great fit. So I'm excited about that. Corey will be a solid backup point guard for sure. And, I didn't know that much. I watched Da Silva play against Florida the whole game in the NCAA tournament. I'd seen clips of him, but I watched the whole game in the NCAA tournament and was really impressed. And I thought he would be, when I was watching that game, I thought this guy would fit really well in our system. And so I wasn't surprised at all that we drafted him. Although I have to say, being a big SEC guy, I was sort of rooting for Dalton Knecht from Tennessee as he kept dropping down the draft night board. But the Lakers snagged him right before we got him. But I think we got a good one in Da Silva. Going to be hard to keep him off the floor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in with this team and all the depth that the team has. David, wanted to close with this. Last season, something different we saw. We're used to seeing David Steele night in, night out on the call for Magic games. Last season, we got Dante Marchitelli on the call for, I believe, 25 games, and some Magic fans were a little thrown off by that. And so maybe some questions about you and what that looks like for you. I don't know if you just want to I'll leave it open-ended. What does the future look like for David Steele? I don't know how far ahead you think about these things, but is there anything to take away from the 25 games with Dante, or what does that look like going forward?
Well, it's going to be the same type of scenario this year. And, I think I already pretty much alluded to it, talking about Bill Land in San Antonio. It's been something that the Magic and I discussed, as I begin to wind down my career, to step out like this just felt like a good way to do it. Give Dante a chance to do some play-by-play and get those games under his belt and get me off the road a little more time with my wife of, again, 50 years, who deserves maybe more attention now than she's gotten over time, as she raised 3 kids and, was the backbone of the family for so many years. So, it's just a different time in my life. And the team was, just wonderful. In fact, they offered me the opportunity to pare back and do as many games as I wanted to do. So we came up with a 55 number, and Bill Land was actually integral in me trying to figure out what number to look at, and just do all the home games, which, I live about a mile from the arena. So that's nice. And then to get off the road and give us a chance, my wife and I, to do some traveling and seeing our grandkids and our children during a time of the year that for 35 years we haven't been able to be involved in their lives, the fall and the winters and early springs. So, it's just a life decision, and I'm taking it 1 year at a time, but I'm in for this year.
We love to hear that, David. We'll close with this. We were told by a certain someone, a recent guest, that we should ask really the whole Bally broadcast team about the different desk situations and different hotels, and just ask you your thoughts on that.
Oh, well, desk is one of the key elements of road travel for an NBA broadcaster. I don't know if you know this, because probably not very many people watching or listening have stayed in, the very nicest hotels. And I certainly would not have if it weren't for, traveling with the Orlando Magic. But some of the great hotels don't have a lot of workspace. They might have just a tiny table, or not even a table at all. Just, I don't know what they expect. I guess people don't work if they're staying in these types of hotels. But, for those of us that have a job to do and are trying to prepare and write down notes, we like a nice desk. We like, big, deep, wide, so you can get your laptop or your iPad and get your notebook out, fill out all the stuff, and get ready to do a broadcast. So, yeah, the desk is big. I don't know who tipped you off. I'm guessing it was probably Turner or Marcatelli.
It was Kendra, actually.
Kendra, okay.
Yep.
Oh, what a great addition she was last year. She's coming back. Yeah. That'll be great.
Yes. So what's the best desk? I'll leave it that. What's the best desk?
Probably the Conrad in Indianapolis.
There you go.
Just spectacular. Just the comfortable chair. That's a big part of it too. Nice workspace, TV right there, off to the right, on the wall. Perfect.
Where's the worst?
Not one of the nicer hotels. Probably the Peninsula in Chicago, which is, I'm guessing, $1,200 a night hotel.
And they can't do a nice sized desk.
Can't put a desk. They can't give me a desk.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for taking the time out. We're looking forward to hearing you back on the call here in a couple of months as we get ready for this Magic season. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Once again, just want to say a big thank you to David Steele for taking the time. Just a crazy day of travel as he got back from a trip with his wife, and was up almost like an entire day, and then said, you know what, I don't want to tell these guys that I can't come on their podcast. So he, toughed it out, joined us on the show there, and just so insightful, great stories, and really appreciate David joining the show. Really, really fun conversation with him.
Yeah. The word legend gets thrown around a lot in today's society, but man, is that dude a freaking legend, man. Like, it's just so cool. Just thinking about all the knowledge and experience that he has from 35, what will soon be 36 years of Magic basketball is just super, super cool. Obviously, really gracious of him to talk with us, gracious of him to kind of open up about, a lot of the questions that some Magic fans had about, last season with Dante, doing 25 road games and all that kind of stuff. And so for him to open up kind of about that and what, this season looks like as well, it was just super, super kind of him. And I know a lot of Magic fans like myself definitely glad to hear it straight from him, kind of what the situation is.
And the fact that, he's taking it year by year,
Yeah.
it seems like. And I mean, I don't know what it'll look like when he decides that, this is going to be the last year, if he's going to do the, reunion, or not reunion, but like the retirement tour that he very much deserves. Obviously, he chooses to do that, but he might choose not to. He might just at the end of the year be like, hey, this is it for me. So what I would just implore every Magic fan to do is like enjoy and appreciate David Steele while he's here, because as great as the next guy might be, there will quite literally never, ever be another David Steele.
And this is what I tell people about David Steele. If you've ever wanted to go talk to him, whether you see him at a Magic game at home or a road game or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to, he's David Steele. David Steele loves to talk to Magic fans. And so if you ever see that, especially like Jonathan said, we don't know how much longer we have. I hope we have David Steele another 20 years. That'd be amazing, but we just don't know. And so if you ever have thought, hey, I just want to go talk to David, if for nothing else, just to thank him, thank you for committing your entire career to voicing Magic basketball games. I know it would mean a lot to David. Like I said, David, Jeff, Dante, Kendra, they're always down to say hey to people that, watch the games, whether it's at home, especially road games. So definitely go out of your way say hey to David this coming season for sure.
And I would say, like, anytime you see, anyone that's involved with the organization and obviously the broadcast, like, one thing that I don't think I had a proper level of appreciation for before doing this and being a little bit closer to the team is I never realized just how much of a sacrifice it is to work in sports. Like, whether you're work on the social media team or you're the play-by-play or color broadcaster or the pregame and halftime postgame host, like, there's so much that goes into it. And when you hear David Steele in that conversation talk about how his wife was really the backbone of their family for the past 35 years and, like, really, a lot of times not being there, like, she's the one day in and day out, like, raising their children, like, that is such a sacrifice that not only that individual is making, but their family is making. So anytime you see anybody, working in sports for a team that you appreciate and, like content or like a broadcast that you consume and appreciate, like, be sure to go out of your way and say thank you, because I know that anybody in that space would appreciate that because it's a huge deal.
Yeah, that line definitely hit me the most. Like, the idea of the last season, he got to do things between October and April that he hadn't gotten to do in 35 years. Think about what sports, think about like kids sports, middle school, high school sports, what sports seasons go from anywhere in that time, October to April or May or June.
Oh, it's all of them.
Exactly right. It's all of them. And so, like, thinking about his own kids, now thinking about grandkids, I don't know what, extracurricular activities they were in, his kids were in or his grandkids are in now, but just the thought of that, it doesn't even have to be sports. It could be, choir concerts and plays and musicals and stuff. And so the fact that he now gets to do that, but you're right. Anyone that's like truly full-time role in sports, the sports season is brutal. And so, yeah, definitely big shout out to David for committing 35 years plus to talking about the Magic. And
hopefully, selfishly, it's many more years, right? Like,
many,
we want
many,
many years of David Steele as we can get. But
that's right.
Are you a Hamilton fan of the musical Hamilton?
Yeah.
Okay. So One Last Time, right? The George Washington. Exactly. So when he's talking about, like, he wants to, be under his own vine and fig tree, like, eventually David Steele is going to be able to sit underneath his own, vine and fig tree, and he will have earned that.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't like to think about that. That will be a sad day for Magic fans everywhere. But yeah, I don't want to talk about this like David Steele is gone, but, like, just appreciate David Steele while we still have him, because, like, having one, like, play-by-play guy for 35 years and has witnessed literally every moment in Magic history, we will probably never have that again.
That's right.
So, yeah, it's just a super special thing, and I hope people appreciate that.
For sure.
Okay, Kevin, I think that is going to wrap it up.
That's going to do it.
Just want to say thank you once again to David Steele. We'll go ahead and wrap this one up. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!